Welcome to Team Building Cultures, the podcast designed to deliver tools and tips for improving team communication, collaboration, and fostering a culture where teams thrive. Now, here's your host, Beverly Hathorn, owner of Strategic HR Consultants.
Hello to my Team Building Cultures family, and thank you so much for joining another episode of Team Building Cultures. Today, my guest is Mr. Kevin Wayne Johnson, who I'm very excited to talk to. Mr. Johnson, Mr. Kevin, is a 34-year federal government employee and now owner and CEO of the Johnson Leadership Group, where he works to create and develop leaders of excellence at all levels. Wow, that sounds so interesting and relevant, Kevin, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you, Beverly. It's a privilege to be on your show, and congratulations for all the great work that you're doing.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. So let's just jump right into it. Tell me about the Johnson Leadership Group. Sounds like an awesome venture.
Yeah, we focus on really the next generation of leaders, but in particular, aspiring leaders, as well as seasoned leaders, to partner with organizations that include nonprofit churches, academic institutions, the corporate space, and also the government, city, county, state, and federal, to prepare their workforce to be much better leaders. We're helping people to better understand that leadership is much bigger than most people think when it comes to leading people with different personalities, different behavioral styles. They respond to conflict differently, they communicate differently. So we're helping leaders in terms of how we train and how we coach and how we mentor to remember that it takes more than just subject matter expertise to be a good leader. People expect that from us. That's what gives you credibility in that title or in that position. But the best leaders are able to align the subject matter expertise with what's in the heart, because from the heart flows the compassion and empathy and honor, respect, and value that people, quite frankly, are really looking for. And so when you and I show up and we demonstrate that we know our stuff, that's one thumbs up. And that's really expected. But to get to two thumbs up, we're teaching leaders to now also demonstrate to those that you're leading that you actually give a care that they're there. And so that kind of separates us and differentiates us. And when I say us, I have a team of 10 men and women that work alongside with me. That's the difference maker in terms of what we provide to organizations from what some of the other organizations and people provide to organizations.
Awesome. Yes, I'm totally in alignment with you on that. That's one of my favorite phrases. But yes, I am totally in alignment with you on that, because a leader is much more than just someone who knows a lot about the job and the organization. If you're leading people, I always say that managers manage things, but leaders lead people. So you do need that compassion and that empathy and that build that respect. That's how you get people to want to work with you to complete the task or the projects that are before you. So tell me, what are some of the key characteristics, other than you've given us the compassion and empathy and honor, what are some of the key characteristics that make a good leader?
Well, I think it starts with self-awareness. Self-awareness is a topic that we talk a lot about as it relates to emotional intelligence. But in order to be really effective and efficient and influential in the lives of those that we're leading, we have to know ourselves. We have to be comfortable in our own skin. We literally do have to like ourselves so that we can be in a position where we can be of service to other people, help them to develop, help them to improve, and identify training opportunities and job opportunities to get them to the next level. And then realizing the potential that lies within them that they can't always see in themselves. So I always share with leaders that it always starts with you and I being self-aware of who we are. And that requires ongoing and recurring opportunities to read, attend conferences and summits, listen to other leaders and other speakers that are speaking on the topic, because it's very important and is very key, especially when we move into the space and place that we are now in 2023 with 5 different generations of people in the workplace at the same time. It can get kind of complicated, kind of complex, and a little confusing because everybody's sort of operating a different way. So we always share that. And then the second thing, Beverly, in the spirit of what I just said, leaders are learners. So regardless of what level you might be in your journey, frontline, mid-level, or senior level, and regardless of what venue in the marketplace that you're working, leaders are learners. And what that simply means is that you and I have to always be in a state where we're learning what's going on around us, what's going on within us, how is this other person responding. And so those are really the 2 key areas, and there are a lot of subcomponents to each, but self-awareness, number 1, and then number 2, leaders are learners. Because if you find yourself in a leadership position and you've already concluded that you know it all and you don't need to learn anything new, you are going to miss the boat and time will pass you by at some point.
And that is so unfortunate when that's not obvious to a leader, because you do continuous learning and continuous improvement not only works for you, but the people that you're leading see you doing that. So then they are kind of incentivized or whatever to go ahead and be continual leaders. And I think that reading and attending conferences and continuing to be available and open to new things that are going on, particularly, as you said, there's so many different generations in the workplace today that you could, be matched with or be leading or following. So because the younger generations, some of them grew up with these computers and software and different systems, technology that is current. And some of the older leaders had to learn that, but some of the younger people grew up with that as second nature to them. So you've got to be able to communicate with everyone on their level. I totally agree with you on that. So why would you say, who are some of the leaders that you follow or?
Yeah, Beverly, two in particular come to mind. One gentleman is no longer with us, and then the other gentleman is, and most people would probably recognize both names, but there's a gentleman that founded many, many years ago what's called the Faith Bahamas International Ministries, Pastor Miles Monroe. We lost him in 2014, but a brilliant mind as it relates to not only ministry as a pastor, but also business and leadership. And I still glean, even though he's been gone now for close to 10 years, I still glean from a number of his presentations, both here in the United States and internationally as well, as he would travel throughout Europe, throughout Africa, New Zealand and Australia, the Pacific Rim, and then of course here in the United States and the Caribbean, because he was based there in the Bahamas. But just a powerful, powerful teacher and a great example, and it still influences my life. And I still use some of his material when I go out to facilitate workshops and seminars and give speeches as well. Second person whose name you would probably recognize as well as your listeners is John Maxwell. John Maxwell, as a young man in his 20s, pastored the fastest growing church in the nation. He was based in the state of Indiana. He transitioned as he moved into his 30s to travel the world teaching leadership strategies and principles. And he happens to be my senior mentor. I'm a part of his team. I'm certified through his organization. And I have monthly contact with him through different mentoring opportunities. But he is extremely powerful from a lot of different perspectives. And he's one of the highest paid public speakers in the world. And he meets with heads of states, presidents, et cetera, and just doing some powerful work with a team of men and women across the country that use his curriculum and his material. So those two always are the first to come to mind. But quite frankly, my ears are always percolating up when I hear any man, any woman that's making really, really good sense in terms of their practical knowledge of leadership. When they open their mouth, I'm all ears, because I'm always looking to learn something new. And that's what's interesting about the journey, is that there's always something new to learn and know, so that we can get better, so that we can be on the forefront of helping our people to get better as well.
I'm not familiar with Pastor Miles Monroe, but I definitely will be Googling him to see what information is out there. Of course, I always enjoy learning. So, but I am familiar with John Maxwell, and I do know that, he has a wonderful leadership academy. I've met a lot of people that trained under his tutelage, and I find them to be very, very highly qualified and skilled. So what are some of the things that you think leaders do wrong? What are some of the things that they miss in their leadership?
Assuming because we're in charge, we know it all and we're going to do it our way. I mean, that I see it time and time again. These are the mistakes I used to make early on in my leadership career as well. And that's just not the way to do it. People are created to be relational. And what that means, Beverly, is that people want to be in a relationship, even with their boss, even with their boss's boss, an acknowledgement that they're there, that they're a key contributor, that they're adding value, that you appreciate them being present. It can be very, very informal in terms of a hello, a thank you, well done, couldn't have done it without you, glad you're on our team. But when we come in like a bulldozer, and because we have the title and because we're in that position, we forget that people already know that we have the authority. Just by the token of your title and the position that you're in your job description, it's clear that you are in authority. We don't have to repeat that to our people. They already know it. It's just really more of a matter of demonstrating that we do have the subject matter expertise. You're going to win them over. And then you're going to be able to transition from directing to asking based upon the relationship that we forge with them. So I always tell leaders, aspiring and seasoned, if you go into any role and you're a dictator versus being a collaborator, if you make decisions in a vacuum without asking other people for their input and opinions and viewpoints and perspectives, I'm not saying you have to implement them, but at least hear them. If you're not doing that, your people will vote with their feet. And before you know it, you're going to look over your shoulder and there's nobody following you. And so that's a mistake that I have made more than once in my career. So I'm really, really passionate about helping leaders not to do that. But when we embrace and when we align and when we collaborate, and I'm not talking about being a doormat. A leader does have to hold people accountable. But when you embrace people and you align with them and you demonstrate that you give a care, that they have showed up today, it's going to make a difference. You don't have to direct people anymore. You can just ask them and they'll want to get it done. And so that's a key thing for leaders to understand, because we don't really get this in school. And because of how we're created, we don't necessarily believe that that's a way to go. We kind of separate ourselves, leaders versus the rest of the folks. But truth of the matter is we're all part of a team. And if we operate that way, then you'll quickly find out that team literally means together, everyone achieves more. So we need our team to be the best that we can be, and our team needs us to be the best that we can be. So there's an interdependency between leadership and those that we are entrusted to lead. And we help people to understand that dynamic.
Exactly. That is why one of the reasons that I started my podcast, Team Building Cultures, because I want leaders to understand that the culture that you create is going to determine what you get from your teams.
Mhm.
If you're this shadowy figure looming over them, waiting for them to make a mistake or not achieve or attain goals or metrics that you set forth, you're right. Your people are going to vote with their feet. I really love that phrase, and I hope you haven't trademarked it because I plan to use it. So, yeah, your people are going to vote with their feet and they'll be out of there. And the worst thing is they will take all that knowledge, all that creativity, that skill to your competitor.
Mhm.
So, yeah, so we need to make sure that we're creating a culture of unity and us, not me standing over you. It's us, the team, and we are together. And we should always have people on our team that have the knowledge and the skill to contribute. Because if you've got all the knowledge and the skill as a leader, you don't need a team, quite frankly. So,
Exactly. Well said.
yeah.
Well said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that's a great concept. Your people will vote with their feet. Remember that, listeners. So, do you have any assessments that you use in your leadership training?
Yeah, sure do. As a matter of fact, I really love that particular question because I'm a firm believer that assessments go hand in hand with any leadership training that's taking place because a good leader, one more time, starts with being self-aware. We have to be comfortable in our own skin. We have to know what makes us tick, what ticks us off. We have to know how to communicate, et cetera. I could go down a laundry list, but emotional intelligence, both the self-assessment as well as the 360, the DISC, the 360 as well as the self-assessment to help us to identify our behavioral style, whether you're dominant, whether you're influencing, steady, or compliant, or a variation thereof. I happen to be an ISC, which is a practitioner. So I'm a combination of all of those. But for me, dominant is way down on the meter because that's just not my personality. I'm not driven by environments that are loaded with drama and confrontation and conflict. I avoid that. As a leader, I know how to hold people accountable, but when it comes to a lot of drama and a lot of instigation and people trying to brew things up out of nothing, those are the type of people and organizations typically that I avoid. And so I know that about myself. So I'm really, really good in not putting myself in those positions. The other one is just in the leadership assessment itself, the 360, as well as the self-assessment. We want leaders to self-assess themselves in terms of how they think they're leading people, but we also want them to get engaged in having their peers, their direct reports, and their supervisor to assess them as well. That's the 360 because they help to cover those blind spots. So the emotional intelligence, both the 360 and the self-assessment, the leadership assessment, both the self-assessment as well as the 360, and then of course the DISC, which really helps us to understand our behaviors. We don't really do much with Myers-Briggs anymore, more of the personality type. As you know, Beverly, and some of your other HR professionals out there that are listening, it came back with 16 different personality types. Mine was ISTJ. I took it twice over a 7-year period, and both times, I'm sorry, ISTJ. Yep. So introvert, true. Sensing, I'm one of those sensing type of guys. I have this ability to kind of sense and discern, and this intuition that kind of gives me a heads up of what's happening. The T, thinker. I'm definitely a thinker. It takes me a while to make a decision. If somebody comes to me at 3:00, hey Kevin, I need a decision by 5, I'm not your guy. I need some time to think about it. I process things, right? I don't make really quick decisions. I always tell a used car salesman, forget it. You'll never get a sale out of me, man. I mean, you're trying to sell me this car and it's a 75% discount until midnight. Nope, sorry. 75%, Mr. Johnson? Nope, I need at least until tomorrow to make a decision. So I'm not your guy. And then last but not least, the J. And Beverly, the J for me really woke me up. The J is for judging. And early in my career, I was guilty of that. I was the type of guy that would always say and think that you don't get a second chance to make a first impression. I was being too hard on people who I didn't think showed up right the first time. And I was really hard on giving them a second chance. Well, who am I as a leader to tell somebody that you don't have a second chance? Everybody deserves a second chance. And the Myers-Briggs was telling me that, ISTJ. So I learned a valuable lesson. I took it twice over a 7-year span, and it came back both times. And finally, some mentors and coaches spoke into my life, and they told me I needed to make that change. And I did. I'm glad I did. But those are really the three that we kind of stick with in terms of helping leaders. And when I do coaching, I use the actual written report, and I walk them through in its entirety, the written report, whether it's 10 pages or whether it's 31 pages, because we have different reports that give that output to help them to understand self. We're on a journey. If you're going to be a good leader, it starts with self-awareness. And so, as a matter of fact, as soon as we're done with our session here, I'm on my way to do some coaching with 2 clients, and we're going to kind of walk them through that process. So assessments are powerful. They're very, very effective, and they should be used as a part of any type of leadership development training, workshops, and seminars. They do make a big difference.
Yes, I agree. As a certified DISC trainer and facilitator, I'm totally in agreement that the importance of being self-aware and the importance of assessments. The Myers-Briggs I took many, many years ago, but I learned there that I was actually an introvert, which was a bit of a surprise because I'm very chatty and I like to talk to people and meet people, but being an introvert has more to do with how I process information and what I do. So I enjoy working alone, which is why I'm a solopreneur. I enjoy, even if I'm on a team, I like to go to my desk, my little cubby, and just get busy on what I've got going on. And the DISC assessments help me understand, which I already knew, that I was a conscientious person. Like you, I don't make snap decisions. I need all the data, all the information. I got to compare it. When I purchased a vehicle, the last vehicle I purchased, I had a spreadsheet with all the different vehicles I was considering, and I narrowed them down based on that spreadsheet. And I visited the dealership so many times that they got to know me. And, and when I finally decided on a purchase and a dealership, the dealership was important to me as well as the vehicle I was purchasing. When I finally decided that, we took 8 hours to close that deal. We didn't close that deal until midnight because I had what I wanted. I knew what I wanted. I had my little spreadsheet, and that's what I was going to get. And
well, Beverly, yeah, we have a very similar story. You're fast. It took me a month.
Yeah.
I took my previous car to the dealer to get some new brake pads, and I have a propensity to keep my cars real clean, so they always look new. That's just, I'm the son of a U.S. Marine, so that's just the discipline.
I get that from you, yes.
Yeah. And the service manager gave me a call the next day. Mr. Johnson, if you would consider coming back, we really like the way that you keep your car, you keep it up to date, you keep it clean, you keep it really, really nice. We would like to purchase it. And I believe that we can put you into something else you might like at a decent price. And I said, okay, well, I did what Beverly did. I said, okay, well, this is the type of car I'm looking for. Do you have that in inventory? And he said, yes, sir. We have 2 different models in inventory. Let's schedule an appointment for you to come take a look. And that was in March. So here in the Washington, D.C. area in March, it's still cold outside, and there's not very many people really looking for cars. As a matter of fact, in some cases, it could possibly still be snowing. It just depends on what year. And so, true story, I went back to the dealership once a week for 3 weeks to just have a meeting with the salesman, let them know I'm still interested, but I'm still trying to decide if I really want to do this or not. And it wasn't until the 4th time, a month later, that my wife came with me, and she just looked at me and said, "What are you waiting on? you, you've been saying this is what you want. If they put that thing online and people see it, it's going to get taken." And then we sat down and did the deal. And the poor salesman, he had so much anxiety. He was so anxious because he thought, he just knew he had a sale. But I just made him wait. I said, I just want to be
Yeah.
sure that I'm sure. And that's just how we roll.
Right. Right. Exactly. I just want to be sure that I'm sure. So, I just became famous at that dealership, and that's the only place I take my vehicle for the maintenance. And
Mhm.
when I come in, everybody's like, "Oh, hi, Seth, how you doing?"
Uh-huh.
Because I'm just a staple there. They should have my picture on the wall or something. But yeah, so I'm a very conscientious person, and it takes me a while to make a decision. I need all the data because I don't want to make the wrong decision. That's
Mhm.
very important to me, that whatever decision I make be the right decision. And again, on the disc scale, I am just slightly dominant. I just have I'm really very big in the conscientious, but I have a slight bit of dominance. And I know that. I think that probably comes from being a single mother, raising a son, and, just probably something I developed, a outer layer that I developed in order to move through life successfully. So,
Mhm.
but definitely not a pushy person, but I do think assessments are very important. I enjoy taking them, and I enjoy delivering them. Again, about the disc, I like that it tells you how you should work with other people. It tells you about your team. It'll say, well, Beverly likes a lot of detail, Kevin. So when you bring her information, that's what you got to do. And it'll say, well, Beverly, Kevin might like he's a high level person, or he's very talkative and friendly, so when you go in there, be prepared to talk about your vacation, or, along with giving him the information. So that's one of the things I really enjoyed the disc. That's my preferred assessment. So it's interesting to see that you, at your prestigious leadership program, supporting this. So yeah,
Yes,
I'm really
absolutely.
happy to hear that. Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
great. That's great. So what's your most passionate leadership topic? I would say that it's the self-awareness, but what else are you very passionate about?
I'm very, very passionate about a leader's influence, because our influence is going to be positive or negative. It's usually not lukewarm. It's not usually there in the middle. Sometimes we are unconsciously negatively impacting others, and other times we might be unconsciously positively impacting others. And so what I've done in terms of how we go about developing our curriculum and teaching and sharing and facilitating is I use what's called an APC model, APC, and not ABC, but APC. And I want people to think about their influence as leaders as follows. The A is for attend. A good leader uses his or her influence to get people to attend. And when I say attend, that's synonymous with show up. Show up with the right attitude, with the right demeanor. A lot of people, quite frankly, they start thinking on Sunday night about whether they want to show up on Monday morning. And contrary to what many Americans may know, the prime time that Americans have a heart attack is on Monday morning. They dread going to their office and having to face their boss, their coworkers, and their team. The evidence and the data will show that's the prime time, the peak time when Americans have a heart attack. And so getting a person to attend, to show up with the right attitude is part of our influence, because your influence, again, is either making a positive impact or a negative impact. The P is for participate. So now that we've got their attendance and they are showing up with the right mindset and the right attitude, we want them to participate. And you get people to participate, it goes back to what I was talking about with the heart, because you have demonstrated as a leader that you give a care that they're here. And when people know that you give a care, that they have shown up, they will participate. That's just part of human behavior, right? Oh, I feel included. I feel like I belong. I'm a part of my tribe. People acknowledge that I'm here, so I'm going to participate. And then the C in the APC model is now contribute. So above and beyond a person showing up, that's attend. Above and beyond a person participating because they feel like they're a part of this tribe, they're part of this organization, they feel like they are included. Now they contribute, and when they contribute, they add value to what's taking place. They're in alignment with the mission and vision of the organization, whether it's government, corporate, a church, a nonprofit, or an academic institutions. We work in all of those venues in the marketplace. Now they're adding value, and people add value by bringing their creativity, their ingenuity, their innovation, their thoughts, their ideas, their perspectives, and their viewpoints, because they know they're going to be heard. If a person knows that they're not going to be heard because you're not a good listener as a leader, then people tend to shut down. Again, it's just part of human behavior. And those are also the same people that vote with their feet and they move on. So what's unique about the conversation we're having, Beverly, is no leader is perfect. And we're not asking leaders to be perfect, because you're not going to be able to accomplish that goal. We all make mistakes. We all do things. To be human is to err. That's just how it is. But to be more aware, see, we're going back now to self-awareness, being more aware of how your bias, how you communicate, how you handle conflict, how you listen. Be aware of how you operate in these spaces. We're not asking any leader to be perfect, because that is not a reasonable goal that can be attained. But you can be aware of how you operate in these spaces and places. And now you are well on your way to being a much better leader. So that's my APC model. What's interesting about all this stuff, none of this stuff can be trademarked. So, I share it. I don't mind if people kind of use it, but that's what we do. And then even in my logo and my Johnson Leadership Group logo for my company, I just have this little phrase: know better, do better, lead better, right? And I tried to trademark that too, and it didn't work. But we can't lead better if we don't know better. But when we do know better, we have a responsibility to do better. And as a result of doing better, now we can lead better. And I'm telling you, I believe, Beverly, that we are well on our way to making the world a much better place if we have better leaders who are in these key positions, because they impact so many people. And if you're going to impact people, then I want leaders to have a positive impact in the lives of others. And so that's the heart and soul and spirit of what we teach, what I believe, and my team. It's core to who we are. It's in our DNA. And I know it works because, like I said, I've 34 years with the federal government. My last position was chief of staff at a major directorate within the Department of Defense. And I had a chance to see quite a bit. And now I'm just sharing these strategies and these principles, not just here in the United States, but we're doing this across the globe as well.
Wonderful information, very relevant, extremely pertinent. That's really great information. And it's all about the culture. What you're saying is all about the culture that leaders set for their employees. And, one of my taglines is that organizational culture is the soil in which all things grow. You've got to present a opportunity for psychological safety so people can show up authentically and give you their ideas and express their thoughts, because that's where the growth is. Your employees know what's going on. You got to get them to think about it and tell you about it, and so that you can get better. And that spirit of autonomy, and I can bring my authentic self to work, like you say in the A is the attend, the APC model is great. Attend, participate, and contribute. Folks, You're only going to get that in a culture that establishes an environment where people can do that. So
Absolutely.
I just really really love that APC model. Might kind of snatch it for your, just to be fair to you, maybe I'll learn it, model it just slightly different. But yes, that's wonderful. That, and your people will vote with their feet if you don't provide a culture, where they have psychological safety and autonomy, where they can attend and participate and contribute. You got to do that if you want your team to grow and your organization to meet its goals and objectives. Wonderful information, Kevin. So do you have anything that you'd like to share with us in terms of maybe an offer or a gift?
Well, if you go to the website, the Johnson Leadership Group, of course, is the name of the company, and the website is the same, thejohnsonleadershipgroup.com. One of the first things that you're going to see pop up is, number one, you can subscribe to our newsletter, where I'm always providing updated new information around what's happening in the world of leadership, different articles. But equally important, we also offer our visitors, if you're so inclined, a complimentary 20-minute executive coaching session. And all you have to do is just sign up right there online, and we'll be more than happy to serve you. So those are two things that you can do in terms of staying in touch. Subscribe to the newsletter, get some more insights and information about leadership. We also provide information about our national book tour that I say we, but me, that I'm on right now through December 2022-23. We started in December 22, and it goes all the way to December 23. But equally important for all of your listeners would be the opportunity to kind of tie into the complimentary 20-minute executive coaching session right there online, www.thejohnsonleadershipgroup.com.
All right, then. Well, you've given us some really great nuggets for leaders and building teams. And you've given us some actionable and sustainable steps that we can take immediately. So I really appreciate that. And I highly encourage our listeners to go to the Johnson Leadership Group and get that executive coaching session, just to, see where you need to work. And, maybe you might want to work with the leadership group to further your career and your learning. So thank you so much, Kevin. I really appreciate your time today.
Thank
it's been
you.
a great, really good talk. Yes. It's been
good.
great.
Well, thank you again for all the great work that you're doing there in the trenches, Strategic HR Consultants.
That
I
is
love it. I'm glad that we had a chance to partner.
Yes. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day, sir.
All right. Okay. You as well. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Team Building Cultures. We hope we have delivered helpful and enlightening information to help you create your dream team. Join us next time